We like to believe we are the masters of this planet. We built the cities, we wrote the history books, and we defined the laws of reality. But what if I told you that our entire civilization is just a temporary tenant living on the ruins of something much older and much more terrifying? Deep in the shadows of forgotten archives, a document surfaced that mainstream science refuses to explain. It is a record from centuries ago, but it does not describe the world we know. Instead, it provides a chilling glimpse into a reality where humanity was not at the top of the food chain, a world where the previous owners of Earth were still very much active. Imagine walking through a city that has stood for generations, only to watch it be incinerated in a matter of seconds by a force that defies physics. This is not a movie script. This is a documented observation of a global reset. The pages of this ancient chronicle reveal a scenario of total annihilation. Metropolises engulfed in flames so intense that stone itself began to melt. Why were the people of that era not fighting the fire? Because they knew it was not a fire. They were fleeing in absolute terror from a radiant energy that bypassed every defense they had. They hid behind trees and thick walls, not to escape smoke, but to shield their bodies from a thermal shock that felt like the sun had descended to Earth. Could it be that these were the final moments of a highly developed era that we have been told never existed? Look closely at the behavior of the victims in these illustrations. They do not act like medieval peasants facing a routine blaze. They act like survivors of a nuclear blast. They know that the heat source is external, possibly wave-like in nature. This suggests that whoever was attacking those cities possessed technologies that make our modern weaponry look like toys. And yet, historians tell us they only had swords and shields. As the cities burned, the sky itself began to transform. This is where the records move from tragedy to a surreal nightmare. Imagine the clouds opening, and instead of rain, colossal objects began to fall from the heavens. These were not simple hailstones. Witnesses described them as massive, artificial structures, some even bearing distinct patterns like lion heads and heraldic symbols. How does ice form into a heraldic symbol in the middle of a storm? The answer is simple: it doesn't. We are looking at the debris of a celestial war. These were the shattered remains of advanced craft or orbital platforms that once patrolled our atmosphere. When the previous owners fought, the Earth became their wasteland. This was a targeted bombardment of the surface, a cleansing of the existing order to make way for something new. Following this firestorm, the chronicler records an even stranger phenomenon: huge solid bodies falling mixed with torrential rain. Their size was so great that they smashed through reinforced roofs like they were made of paper. This was not weather. This was hydrodynamic impact on a scale that wiped out entire residential blocks in minutes. The intensity of this bombardment suggests that the atmosphere itself was being used as a weapon. If you think the destruction on the ground was bad, you need to look at what was happening in the heavens. The sky was no longer a symbol of peace. It became a giant zoo of biological and mechanical horrors. The records described fiery dragons that were not mere myths, but physiological beings with flesh, blood, and destructive power. These multi-headed snakes attacked settlements with a systematic precision that suggests intelligent control. Were these genetically modified bioweapons used by a superior civilization to clear the land? The descriptions are disturbingly specific. These creatures didn't just soar, they interacted with the terrestrial world in the most aggressive way possible. Their breath was not just flame, it was a focused thermal discharge. One gets the feeling that the author was describing a breakthrough from another reality where biological laws operate differently. Or perhaps we were dealing with extra-dimensional entities that reclaimed their territory. And then there are the skyfish, long, writhing creatures moving through the air with wave-like motions like giant eels swimming in an invisible ocean. This suggests that the very density of our atmosphere was altered during this cataclysm. The air became a liquid-like medium for life forms that do not belong to our biology. These are the plasma life forms that ruled before we were given permission to exist. But the most alarming evidence lies with the sun itself. For decades, the sun began to behave like a broken mechanism. The chronicles record the appearance of multiple suns shining simultaneously. In some years, 3 suns would line up in geometric figures. In others, as many as 5 luminaries would saturate the sky with a blinding haze. This was not an optical illusion. This was a gravitational distortion caused by the intrusion of a massive cosmic body into our solar system. Could this be the legendary Planet X or Nibiru that ancient cultures warned us about? Think about the psychological state of people living under 5 suns. The concept of day and night was erased. Biological rhythms were destroyed. The previous owners were not just changing the landscape, they were resetting the physics of the planet. Next to these suns, the records show burning logs, elongated, cigar-shaped objects that remain stationary despite the chaos below. In modern ufology, we call these motherships, but to the medieval eye, they were omens of divine wrath. These crafts were often surrounded by dark spheres that seemed to parasitize energy directly from the suns. Imagine an energy grid being deployed over the entire Earth while we watched in helpless bewilderment. Why has this been hidden from us? Because the people who built our new history wanted us to believe we started from scratch. They wanted us to think our ancestors were primitive tillers of the soil. They tell us the artist was stupid or hallucinating. But look at the aerodynamics of the objects he drew. Look at how the shadows fall under strange lighting. How could a man from the 1500s accurately depict the physics of thermal processing of a stone city? He couldn't unless he saw it with his own eyes. We are living on a post-apocalyptic colony. We are the successors who were given a cleaned-up planet after the real owners were done with their harvest. Every few thousand years, the clock resets. The signs are always the same. First comes the atmospheric chaos, then the celestial anomalies, and finally the return of the previous owners to claim their property. The world captured in these chronicles looks broken. The sky, which should be a symbol of order, turned into a thoroughfare for monsters and mechanisms. The supreme observer in these drawings is not a canonical god. He sits in the pilot's cockpit, surrounded by wheels within wheels. He is not judging sins. He is monitoring an experiment that has reached its expiration date. If you look up tomorrow and see 3 suns in the sky, do not look for a scientific explanation in your textbooks. The scientists will be just as powerless as the people in these records. They will tell you it is light refraction, while the sky monsters begin their descent. They will tell you the fires are accidental, while the thermal radiation melts your reality. The previous owners never truly left. They are just waiting for the next cycle to end. We are just the next inhabitants of a temporary shelter built on the bones of giants. The Augsburg Book of Miracles is a documentary warning left for the few who are brave enough to see the truth. History is a circle, and we are nearing the end of the loop. When the dragons return and the suns multiply, remember that you were warned by the ghosts of a civilization that was deleted before you were even born. Stay vigilant, because the owners are coming back to collect their debt. And this time, there might not be any records left to tell the story of our demise. The sky is a lie, and the past is a shadow. The countdown has already begun.